Hey, thanks for tuning in. I'm here with Bryce Eggert. Bryce is the owner of A-Town Custom Tile and Stone LLC. One of the things I mentioned before that I kind of want to do is to promote the trade. So I figured I'd get Bryce on to talk a little bit about tile. Let's just plug your business here first. How can people get a hold of you and what sorts of things do you offer? I know you do tile and flooring, right?
Yep. So the best way to get a hold of me is obviously my phone, my cell phone number. It's 952-228-8807. And if I don't answer, just leave me a message. I'll get back to you. Otherwise, I do have a Facebook page. It's just my business, capital A dash town, custom town stone. You can find me on Facebook, and that's where you'll find a lot of pictures of some of the work that I've done. So if you need any kind of, I don't know, if you need information, pictures, things to look at, maybe give you some ideas. That's a good place to go. Um, those are probably the two best.
Yeah, sounds good. Bryce did my shower. We had a just a fiberglass, whatever you want to call it, and tore that all out and I have a nice tiled shower. And then when the period of time when my wife was doing daycare, we had to do something about the entryway because we had the old linoleum that was peeling up, and it's like, well, someone's gonna trip and fall over this. So that's all gone. We got nice tiled entryways too. So Bryce does do a great job. So in addition to the tile stuff, you also lay flooring, and a lot of people are doing like the what is it, the luxury vinyl
Hmm.
stuff that's kind of in right now. Do you
Right.
do a lot of that
Yeah.
or
So a lot of people are going away from the carpet. I mean, carpet's nice in bedrooms, I think, for warm, but I don't know, for whatever reason, people just seem to be going away from carpet. So I've been doing a lot of that too. And I'll rip the carpet out, tack strip, get rid of that for you. Most of the plank flooring now is the vinyl. I've
Mhm.
kind of gotten away from the laminate because if it gets wet, that laminate, it still does heave. That water gets down into those crevices and cracks, and even though they say it's waterproof, it really isn't. But the vinyl, if that gets wet, you're good to go. You just wipe it up, and it's pet friendly as well. If you have pets, kids, they're extremely durable. They're rigid. They don't scratch very easily.
Yep.
So I try to steer people that direction if they're looking for a floor. There's a product at Home Depot I really like called Life Proof. It's probably in the mid grade for price cost.
Mhm.
It's not the cheap, but it's not the most expensive either. And I've had really good luck with the installs on those, and hardly any callbacks. So
Gotcha. Yeah, my folks' place growing up was carpeted every single room. Like this is actually kind of gross, but even like the bathrooms and the
yeah.
kitchens and stuff. And the house was always kept very clean, but it's like I've gone completely opposite in my own house. I have very little carpet and it just feels cleaner, not
Hmm.
having all that. So very good. So how did you get going on the whole tile thing?
Well, I didn't start on my own. I actually worked for a company out of the metro area, and that's primarily where I learned. I just kind of, basically went to work and got my education through work. I was getting paid to go to school is kind of what the way I like to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I learned. And then over the years, different products have come out, different companies have created, um, they've come a long way with moisture barrier and stuff now. So there have been some things that I've self-taught myself, but primarily for the most part, I learned almost entirely with that company that I worked up in the metro area. I just got tired of the drive every day
Mm-hmm.
because there was days where I was going up to Blaine, Ham Lake, and from Arlington,
That's
that's
a
a
long
haul, and you're
haul.
dealing with
Yeah.
traffic. And
Yeah.
so I got to the point where I just decided I'd take the leap of faith, and it's been almost 8 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Um, Are there other pathways if a guy wants to get into tile and flooring and maybe carpeting? Is there, can you do that in a trade school or you most guys just do it on the job and learn that way?
I actually don't think there's any kind of a school for it.
Okay.
I think I think you just go to work and you learn. It's a hands-on trade,
Hmm.
It's not something that I mean, obviously you're gonna learn by doing it,
Right.
but and there's more ways to skin a cat, they say too, there's probably several different ways to install tile, but I mean, you should definitely go work for somebody who does it if you're looking at getting into it. Um, I I have some opportunity if anybody sees this and they're looking for a little side income. I could use a guy right now,
Good
and
to
it
know.
wouldn't be a 40-hour week, but I could use 2, 3 days a week, I could use a hand if anybody's looking for something, or if they have a child, a high school kid that maybe wants to come work this summer and learn. So
Sure.
there would be an opportunity there for somebody if somebody would. And if it's not for me, I know other guys in the trades, and they're always looking for people too. I can definitely set, I can get them in contact with those people.
Good
So
to know. What type of investment in gear does a person need to do this on their own? Obviously, you need the wet tile saw
yeah.
and your basic drills and things like that, but like how big of a investment is it?
Well, you need a truck
Yep.
because you have to haul around, your materials. And I would say probably you could probably get started for a couple $1,000.
Okay.
My wet saw is a rigid, it's just a Home Depot saw, and it was around 700. And then, you need your just basic tools. And most of it now is all the battery operated. I choose Milwaukee. I like their tools. But I would say a couple $1,000 in a truck and you'd be good to go
Be
once
good to
you know
go.
what you're doing.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's nice to know that there's not a huge,
Right.
upfront cost and all this extravagant gear you have to purchase to get going at it.
And I would say too, you need to, if you're gonna start your own business, you have to do what you have to do with the state and comply and,
Hmm.
and get your insurance and,
Hmm.
liability and work comp and all those fun things that you have to do when you're in business.
Sure.
Yeah.
What are some of the more rewarding jobs that you've done? It must give you kind of a sense of pride to like see some of your photos and, hear from people later that you played a part in making their home great and making them real happy. So what are some projects that have been really cool for you to do and really rewarding?
Uh, Geez, they're all kind of the same for me. I just try to do the best I can for people. They give me an idea and I visually kind of visualize it with them, and I just try to build it and make it the customers. Each one of them has their own, what the customer likes, I might not,
Hmm.
but it's not for me to tell them what to put in. But
Sure.
every job is different. Uh, I think my most proud I ever was after a job is when I finished that mid-key job in Hutch. It's the old Shopco building,
Okay.
and that was I don't know how many, there was like 5 or 6 bathrooms, a bunch of backsplashes and a bunch of floors, and I was there for almost 2 months. So it was a big commercial project for me, and I don't get a lot of commercial projects, so being a one guy, that took me a while because it was a lot of work, but
Hmm.
I got it done and they were very happy. And so and I've been back there since the building's been done now, and everything looks really good with all the commercial plumbing and
Sure.
everything put together. It's just because I don't always see the end result. I get it ready for the plumber, and then the licensed plumber will come in and do the plumbing. So a lot of times I don't see the end result. So for me to
Gotcha.
see the end result is rewarding, sometimes. But
Got it. We were talking earlier before we got on here, but you rip apart somebody's bathroom or whatever. I'm sure you really never completely know what you're going to get into. So do you have any horror stories? Yeah, of
sure.
course we don't need to name any names or anything like
No,
that,
no.
but like what are some horror
Mold.
stories?
Mold.
Mold.
That's the worst. And if you think you're living with mold, you are. There hasn't hardly been any instances where I've ripped something apart where the homeowner thought there might be mold and there wasn't.
Yeah,
Most people know. So then you just got to do a little bit. You got to get that mold out of there and contain it, and then you got to bleach everything. And then there's been instances where I've actually even replaced the 2x4s. I just take it all out and just start over.
yeah.
Sometimes it's just easier to do it that way, and then it's done right, and you're good to go.
So is that a case when the mold's gotten so bad that it started to eat the
Wood,
structure?
yeah, it eats
Ugh,
the wood.
yikes.
And that's not good if you have, well, it's not good for you, but if you have kids, and
Yeah,
you got to get that out of there. You got to take care of that. And
yeah.
so and it's not every job, but I run into it more than I want to,
Sure.
unfortunately. Yeah.
Sure. Anything else we can talk about here with the tile gig? We kind of talked about what it takes to get going, and Bryce said he's got some opportunities if anybody wants to learn the trade. And
Yeah, I would say it's not easy work. I
hmm.
mean, you got to be able to work. You got to be able to get on your hands and knees a lot, and you got to be able to bend and lift. And um, but if I can do it, anybody can do it if you want to learn.
Sure.
It's just a matter of learning and taking your time and doing what's right, and just, yeah, it's not. hard. It's just hard work.
Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's shift gears to baseball here a little bit. Bryce is also an umpire. I'll be the first to admit I'm not a big sports nut or baseball nut, but I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about umping and kind of how you got into that, and maybe we can talk a little bit about some stories related to your experiences with that as well.
Sure. Well, I think this was year 31 for me. I started when I was 18, and I got started back in the day when our uniform wasn't quite as sleek as it is now. I grew up in the early 90s, and when I started, I had a powder blue shirt from J.C. Penney's with a pair of gray dress pants from J.C. Penney's, and I had the old waffle pad that you hid behind. And that's how long I've been doing it. So, like I said, this is my 31st year, and the game hasn't really changed. Some of the equipment has, and the fields in this state are some of the most beautiful ballparks. We're very blessed in Minnesota for the climate we have here to have what we have. All these little towns take care of their parks. It's unbelievable to me, and it's fun for me to give back and continue to give because I like it. I
Mm-hmm.
like the people,
Mm-hmm.
and the ballparks, and it's just I've met so many interesting, neat people through that game. It's almost like you with music. You become friends with these people for life, and
Yep.
they become some of your, even though they're seasonal friends, I call them. But it's been good to me.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
yeah.
All right. I'll admit here, I had a ghostwriter for some of these questions. I contacted
Yeah.
one of my buddies, and he's a huge baseball nut, so
All
he kind of
right.
helped me out. All right, here we go. How difficult is it to manage the strike zone when you're behind the plate?
I think, well, it's consistency. So working with the catchers is big. A lot of times, you work with that guy. If he's not giving me a good look, I can tell him, hey, because I'm a short guy. Sometimes these bigger catchers, you got to work with them. You got to tell them that I'm having a hard time seeing over. So you just got to work. And if he called a strike in the first inning, it's got to be a strike in the ninth inning. So
Like you said, consistency.
wherever you start, you should stay there, and that's where young umpires get in trouble because in the first inning they'll call the strike, and then in the eighth inning when the game is close, it's a ball, and teams don't like that. They want to know, if he's going to call that pitch a strike, it's should be a strike the rest of the game.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha. What's your favorite weird rule that has come up in a game situation?
oh yeah, it's obstruction versus interference. Two different calls. Obstruction is it's either on the defense or the offense, and the other is vice versa. So interference is always on the defense, and obstruction is always on the offense.
Okay.
It's hard to call. It's judgment, and guys they get real lippy about it because they never think they're doing anything wrong. It's
Sure.
always, other that those are my two worst.
Okay.
Yeah.
That kind of segues into the next one here. Does arguing ever work? Do you ever change your mind on a call?
Oh, I've changed my calls many times. When you're working with a partner, that's what you're both there to do. You're there to get it right. So if I get together with my partner on a call where we think a coach comes out and he might challenge, not that there's a challenge, but he might ask me to go to my partner and talk to him. If my partner is 100% sure and adamant that I got it wrong, we're changing that every time because our job there is to get that right.
And it doesn't become a struggle where you're trying to, oh, I'm right, you're right, or whatever. You're
No,
there for the common good of
there's certainly are guys out there that are like that, but
yeah,
I'm just not that
sure.
guy. Um, I've been doing it long enough now that I know I'm not perfect. As the only perfect person I know they crucified. So
Gotcha. What's your favorite arguing story?
gosh, I don't really get. I've had to kick maybe 7 guys out my entire 31 years, so I really don't get. And I usually can diffuse it before it gets too bad. But
Can you think of a time when you had to eject somebody, what it was that what they
oh, I've had fans, sit behind me, and it's somebody's dad or whatever, and he might be on the sauce, and they get pretty vulgar and belligerent sometimes, and I've been followed to my car many times, but usually there's a site manager there, and that gets nipped in the butt right away. But one particular place, I was on a Friday night and the game didn't start till like 8:30 because the sun sets in center field, so the batter hitter couldn't see.
Mhm.
So and everybody was just it was a town ball game and
People
everybody
had been
was
out before the game.
oh they were sauced and that got late and it was a heated game. It was a close game, rivalries, and there wasn't much good that came out of that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What levels do you all ump?
So I used to do high school, but I haven't since I started my own business. I just can't. A lot of times the schedule's preset like a month or two in advance. And I never know where I'm gonna be in a month or two for work. So I had to pick and choose. So I haven't done high school now in 7 years, but I've done everything from little kids all the way up high school into college and primarily town ball.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was there a
So
period of time where you the manager of the
I was,
Arlington Town
yep.
Ball? How long did that last for you?
Well, I had I managed for like 3 years and I don't remember what the dates are, but then I started playing again.
Okay.
Um, so I think I played for 3 or 4 years and then I managed it again and then I stepped away. Phew, it's got to be 5 years ago
Okay.
now almost.
Gotcha. All right, last one here. Let's talk a little bit about parents. Are there horror stories? Are they true? Do you find it a positive experience, mostly umping? Or does sometimes the parents kind of eat at you and
Very rarely do I have issues. When I do, I probably made a bad call, but you're there to work, you're there to do the best you can for these
yeah.
people. We're all amateurs. That's one thing sometimes these guys forget, and especially parents. Um, the hardest for me is when I get scheduled, like I was supposed to be in Greenock last week and I umpire in Gaylord sometimes, but doing it so many years in a row, there's really nowhere I can't go where people don't know me
Yep.
because I'll stick around after the game and have a burger and a beer with these players because
Mm-hmm.
I respect them
Mm-hmm.
and that's just what I do. Not many umpires will do that, but I'm one of those guys. Um, and that's how I've made so many friends. So I usually don't have too many problems and I usually can diffuse it pretty quickly. But when players get on me, I know I probably made a bad call, but when the fans get on you, that's just part of the game. They're just being fans. It's just if they can keep it without being belligerent or vulgar, some of it's pretty funny. Some of it's actually fairly tasteful. So you'd be surprised.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you have a good outlook on
Yeah.
it, and it sounds to me like you're in it for the right reasons. You said you want to give back and love the game and the connections you've made through it. So,
Yeah, and that's another thing for any young kid that wants to get involved in umpiring, just like the tile manager. We need guys bad.
yep. I
Um,
know the same thing is true for high school sports too, for not just baseball, but for anything. People just don't
yeah,
want to do it, it seems.
our St. Cloud group is down to 32 guys, and that's St. Cloud. That's a pretty big area.
Yeah, it is.
So for us to only have 32 guys, it's really hard on us. I mean, we all have to work. We don't get a weekend off. And sometimes it'd be nice to have a weekend off, especially when you got a place at the lake. But we just need guys, so there's a definite need there too. And there's always people like myself willing to help any young guy that wants to get started, even if it's just a simple thing like a shirt or something. I got all kinds.
What kind of a process is it like to get certified, and how long does that take? What does it cost? What's involved with that?
For the high school, it's simple. You go online, you go on the Minnesota State High School League website, and you got to take their test. And I think you have to get in with an association. The association's what's going to get you your games, but I think it's $100. I think
Okay.
it's one game, you'll make your money back.
Yeah.
It's just, and then the uniform, you need your gear. So a couple, 2, 3 games, you'd have your money back.
You have to purchase your own
Yeah,
uniform and gear and
yeah.
stuff like that. Okay. So not a huge substantial
No,
cost
and
or
once
anything
you
like that.
got it, you got it.
Yeah.
It's just keeping up with the time.
Yep.
If they come out with a new shirt, you got to buy it.
Sure.
Uh,
Cool. Well, hey, thanks so much for doing this. Say your phone number one more time, how people can get a hold of you if they want to hire you for tile or for
Sure.
flooring.
It's Bryce Eggert with A-Town Custom Tile and Stone, and you can reach me at 952-228-8807.
Hopefully you don't get a bunch of spam calls.
Yeah, on email, I don't know, eggert.be@gmail. So,
Sounds good.
yeah.
All right. Thanks for
All
the time.
right.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Jim.
Yep.
Appreciate it.